Well, what's up, guys? Hopefully you're all doing well. So I thought I would do a video that is of a somewhat serious nature today. Wanted to talk about something that I think is very important to talk about. Today we're talking about, and today, well, I'm talking about bullying. Now I know what it's like to to experience bullying, as I've had to deal with that when I had to deal with that when I was in secondary school. There was one particular boy who made my life hell. It got to the point eventually where I was actually scared to even go into school because I was scared of what he was going to do to me from one day to the next. The thing that really made it worse for me was the fact that whenever I actually told the teachers about what was going on, it felt like they didn't believe me, to be honest. It felt like they thought I was kind of lying or making it up, you know. Um, I mean, obviously, if you or someone that you know is dealing with bullying or is experiencing that, the best thing you can do is tell somebody as soon as possible. Someone that you can trust, whether that be your parents, whether that be one of your teachers, whether that be, as long as you tell someone about it, it's the best thing to do. And the sooner you do speak out about it and you do tell the teachers about what's going on, the better, because it means that things have been nipped in the bud, and you will always want things to be nipped in the bud fairly quickly. You don't want things to keep going on and on and on and on and on for too long. My advice is not to bottle things up, because that's what I did. I bottled things up and it made me ill. I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping, and in the end, I knew that I had to tell somebody about what was going on. I think the thing with me is not only was I peed off about the fact that the teacher didn't believe me, I think I was scared of what the boy would do to me if he found out that I'd snitched on him. I was worried that he would bully me even worse than he already was. Now, this particular student, he has fallen foul of a lot of the other students in the school. He was a student that practically, I don't think there was a single day where he wasn't involved in some kind of altercation with somebody else. His name was Matthew. Now, there's a little bit of history there because his mum actually bullied my mum when they were kids. And when I look back at it now, I often think, well, was she actually influencing him? Like, was she encouraging him to bully me? I often wonder that. Because, I mean, is it something that can really be ruled out? I don't know. Maybe she was encouraging him. I honestly do not know. I remember that there was another girl that bullied my mum. Her name was Georgina. And she ended up being the escort on my school bus one day. And I got on the bus and I said to her, you used to bully my mum. And what was funny was that when the next day she wasn't on the bus. So she'd obviously been asked to be put onto another school bus, but obviously she knew what I was talking about. And I said, "Oh, you used to bully my mum," and that she obviously went and asked to be put onto another school bus, which was funny. Um, I mean, obviously the bullying, for me, it was the hardest thing that I ever had to deal. As I said, it did get to the point where I was scared to go into school because I didn't know what was going to happen from one day to the next. You know, there's a reason why bullies do the things they do. They bully others because they've been bullied themselves. And that's their way of retaliating. Their way of retaliating is to bully somebody else. But as I said, if you know someone, if you yourself is being bullied, or you know someone that is being bullied, whether that's in school or an after school club, or you know or like a youth club or, whether it's happening online. The sooner you tell somebody about it, the better, really, because it stopped. Things have to be stopped. You can even get the police involved if need be. If it's online, you can inform the police of what's going on, and they might be able to do something about it. You know, the best thing about the best thing is not to stay silent. You shouldn't let the bullies make you feel afraid to speak out about what's going on and what they're doing. You know, these bullies, when they do the things they do, they deserve to be named and shamed. And if you choose not to forgive that person for what they did or for the way they treated you, then fair enough. I wouldn't blame you for that. Because the way I see it, if someone chooses to bully someone else and make that person's life hell, they don't deserve to be forgiven for that. I never forgiven the boy that made my life hell when I was in secondary school, and I doubt I would ever forgiven him anyway. Obviously, I ended up leaving the school, and obviously not just because of that, but because of other issues that were going on at the time. But I don't doubt that if I had stayed in the school, the bullying was never going to stop. It was just going to continue on and on and on. The worst thing he ever did was stealing my mobile phone. What happened was it was a break time, and we were in the ICT room. I was at one computer, and there was another boy on another computer, and I noticed he was playing a game, and he was doing quite well on the game. So I went over to see what he was playing and to watch him playing the game. And I put my bag down by my foot, and Matthew had obviously, the boy that was bullying me, had obviously seized the opportunity, and he grabbed my bag and ran out of the room. Now I had my freedom pass in my bag alongside my mobile phone. That was what I really had in there. I didn't really have anything else in there. And the phone I had wasn't really, it wasn't a smartphone or anything. It wasn't a decent one of these decent mates. Um, it was kind of just a standard phone, like a standard flip, one of those kind of standard flip phones. Um, I think it was one of those Alcatel phones, Alcatel. It was one of those mates. Um, well, obviously I found my bag. It was in another corridor on the floor. But when I went into my bag, the wallet that had my freedom pass in it, that was empty, and my phone was also missing from my bag as well. And I knew that and I knew that he'd taken it. I knew that he had it because and I knew that I hadn't left my phone at home. I knew that I'd had it in my bag with me that morning, and he'd obviously taken it out of my bag and done a run off with it, and obviously hidden it somewhere. But never did get found. But he'd obviously taken it home. He'd maybe sold it or something. I don't know. And he even when they had the film crews come into the store to film the documentary "Too Tough to Teach," he actually admitted it on camera. He actually said, "Yes, I did have the phone, but then I didn't. But then I lost it, or whatever." So he admitted to having he'd taken the phone. Now there was two boys in my class. These two boys and Matthew, they were stood outside the art room, and they were bending my freedom pass up against the window. And what was funny was that about a couple of months after that happened, my freedom pass stopped working, and I had to replace it and get a replacement one. And my mum phoned the school if she wanted that boy Matthew, to be made to pay for a new freedom pass, and they refused to have him pay for it, which quite rightly they should have done because he was the one that damaged it. He and the two other, it should have been him and the two other boys that were made to pay for it because they were the ones that damaged it, bending it up against the art room window the way they did. You know, as freedom passes are not meant to be bent like that. And when I got it back, there was like a massive line down the middle of it where they'd obviously bent it. And obviously, the store ended up giving me the money for a new phone, as obviously the way I handled the situation so well. I had to go down to the police station with a member of staff to report the incident as theft. Because obviously what happened was, I went down, I didn't immediately check my bag. I went down to the art room to check if my phone was it to, and I obviously it said the bell had gone for the end of lessons. So I went down to the art room. I opened my bag to make sure everything was still in there, and obviously my freedom pass was gone and my phone was gone, and I told the teacher about it. And we went up to the office, and obviously the three boys called in, and Claire, who was the head teacher, said to them, if the phone is not returned by the end of lunchtime, I will be hunted. I will get the police involved. And obviously the phone wasn't returned by the end of lunchtime, so me and the teaching assistant had to go down to the police station to report it as theft. Um, but yeah, I mean, obviously, as I said, no one. Well, what I will say is that nobody ever deserves to be bullied. Unfortunately, people get bullied for many reasons, whether that's race, religion, ethnicity, the colour of their skin, their nationality, and people don't just, their gender, but their gender identity, their sexual preferences. Nobody deserves to get bullied for any of those things. And sadly, people do get bullied online, and bullying anyone online is unacceptable. But bullying anyone off of the internet is unacceptable. I've seen so many so many incidents in the news, stories in the news where kids have committed suicide because they've been getting bullied so badly, and when they've actually reported it to to the teachers and stuff, they haven't been believed. And it's sad to hear stories like that where kids are being driven to kind of doing things like that. But yeah, it's unfortunate, but it is what can happen. Nobody, as I said, you know, my advice to you guys, if you or anyone you know is being bullied by someone, tell somebody straight away, tell somebody immediately. I'm not saying that if, I'm certainly not going to say, just because my teachers didn't believe me, doesn't mean that your teachers wouldn't believe you. Because I'm pretty sure your teachers, if you actually told them you were being bullied or one of your friends was being bullied, the teachers would do whatever they could to actually put a stop to that. Because that is what they're there to do. When something like that is reported, your teachers are there to put a stop to that. They're there to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And that is what they will do. Which is why it's always best to tell somebody tell someone you trust straight away. Whether that be your parents, whether that be your teachers. Tell someone straight away. That is all I've done. That's what I have to say on the matter. So I hope you enjoyed this little video. Thought I would do that one for you guys today. I'll see you for another video later on, I guess. Bye for now, though.